Peggy 18.
Hi, I'm Decter-Jackson, the creative director at Complex Games. On May 5th, we're releasing Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Daemonhunters, a turn-based tactical game set in the grim darkness of the far future. You will command the elite chapter of the Space Marines known as the Grey Knights as they attempt to stop the Bloom, the plague inflicted upon the galaxy by the Chaos God Nurgle. Today, I'm going to talk you through a slightly condensed version of one of our first major story missions. This ends with a quick tease for a major narrative event that shapes the rest of the game. If you're a Warhammer 40,000 fan, you won't want to miss the finale of what we've got to show you today. In this mission, which caps off the first act of the game, our Grey Knights have been led to an Aeldari Craftworld by the Inquisitor, Kartha Vakir. She seeks to investigate the source of the bloom. You can see we've got Vakir selected right here. When Vakir moves up the bridge, a trio of Plague Marines have scattered into attack positions. Vakir's a guest character in your squad, so your 4 Grey Knights are going to be needed to keep her alive in order to get to the center of the craft world to progress. Now we want players to think very tactically about the environment surrounding their Grey Knights, whether it's to take advantage of a nearby pillar to crush their enemies, or using a well-placed grenade to send them flying into the abyss for instant death. As you can see, this craft world has been badly damaged by Nurgle's encroaching forces, but this does create some environmental opportunities that you can use against your enemy. And this is just one of many unique maps you'll encounter as you progress through the story of the game.
We're close. I can feel it.
At your service.
With the Plague God Nurgle as your enemy, you're going to have to be wary of status effects in this game. One example of that is with this Plague Marine's ability, Hazard Spray. Once your knight enters the affected area, he'll become plagued, which causes persistent damage over a number of turns. Vakir isn't as well armored as your Grey Knights, so you'll need to take care not to expose her to enemy fire. But she has a number of useful psychic abilities she can deploy in a pinch. See that meter creeping up at the top, which is currently at 60%? Keep an eye on that one for later. Next up, we'll use our Interceptor's psychic ability, Hammerhand. From here, I can choose from a variety of close-range attack options depending on the enemy. Alright, so we just stunned that Plague Marine, which temporarily immobilizes him and makes him vulnerable to critical attacks. You'll notice the meters now hit 80%. Every time you use one of your psychic abilities, the meter goes up by a certain amount of percentage, and we'll explain exactly why in a few moments. The Inquisitor has a totally unique skill set compared to the Grey Knights. So as we look at this Plague Marine, you'll notice that he has 5 armor on top of his health bar. But because Vakir has armor-piercing rounds, she'll be able to apply damage directly to the enemy's health. Now with this Plague Marine already stunned, you'll have access to an execution option from the precision targeting screen. Let's put this guy out of his misery. What's important here is the execution will give all our Grey Knights a little AP boost. Our combat system in Chaos Gate Daemonhunters is all about rewarding players who take an offensive approach, rather than being cautious and defensive. Destroying an enemy also rewards that knight with willpower, which helps to further fuel the use of psychic abilities you saw earlier. I'm getting a bit sick of this guy. Let's knock him down a peg with some heavy silencer fire from our Purgator. The Grey Knights each have a war gear slot, which you can fill with a grenade, servo skull, or other passive equipment. Here, our Apothecary class is wearing Terminator armor and is using a Medicae servo skull, which can be used to help heal Vakir's wounds. I'm going to bring Vakir into the center for more protection.
Unleash me.
So you'll notice now that we've hit 100% on the top meter. This is what we call a warp surge, which are unpredictable combat-based events that add drama to the unfolding battle. They can offer your enemies beneficial mutations, pull in extra reinforcements, or impose harsh HP limits on your knights, as we see here, among many other outcomes. This introduces a risk-reward element for using your psychic powers.
Cover me while I release its wards.
Yes, Commander. My blade is yours. As you will. Your orders.
As we're pushing across the bridge and getting closer to the door, additional forces have entered the fray. Now that big enemy at the bottom of the stairs is the Mephetic Blighthaller, a tricky opponent that can bombard your Grey Knights with artillery fire from far away. Let's push further across this bridge towards the door so we can get to our objective.
My blade is yours.
So that hazard spray that's hit one of our knights, he's been afflicted with the plague status, which is going to sap his health every turn. We're going to want to avoid the affected tiles in the follow-up turn here. That's why we let players plot waypoints around each map, so the Grey Knights can tread carefully when they're pushing into the fray. Now, our knight here is about to be afflicted with the Drain status. This is going to limit his access to his psychic abilities. This Plague Marine has gone into Overwatch, which is something your Grey Knights can do too, but playing defensively won't always work in Chaos Gate Daemonhunters. To get around the enemy's Overwatch zones, your Grey Knights have a few neat ways of avoiding damage, which we'll show you shortly. Oof, suddenly we're dealing with a lot of enemies on multiple sides. While our first knight was able to parry the attack thanks to his weapon's auto ability, you'll see in a few moments that the Blighthaller is still able to land a cheap shot while he's exposed. Forces of Nurgle have set up a lot of Overwatch firing zones, limiting our movement options. So we're back in melee precision targeting, and we're going to select the Weakened Affliction, which means this Poxwalker is going to deal less melee damage than before. But it's not really going to matter, because we're just going to use this knight to kill him outright. Alright, let's try and thin out this cluster of enemies on the left flank. See how the environment's our friend here. We've sent that Plague Marine off the edge of the Craftworld into the giant pit of nothingness, killing them instantly. Next up, though, we want to try and help out our pinned Interceptor. Let's use our Purgator to eliminate the surrounding Poxwalkers. Since he hasn't moved this turn, he can spend both his remaining action points on ranged attacks. Vakir can handle this Poxwalker no problem.
I will comply.
We can avoid having our Interceptor take any damage in that Overwatch zone by teleporting them out of the line of fire. Once again, we enter the precision targeting screen from a melee attack. Let's just remove this Plague Marine's whole arm, eliminating his ability to use ranged attacks. Next up, our Justicar can use this psychic support ability called Honor the Chapter. This will boost the Interceptor's action points, meaning he can finish off the Plague Marine immediately, rather than waiting until the next turn. The Interceptor finishes it up with another psychic ability called Teleport Strike. So let's turn our attention to this Blighthaller. The Apothecary class has an ability called Scourging, which afflicts the bleed status effect on its targets. This will cause damage every turn. Fortunately, the Blighthaller is a mechanical unit and resists bleed. Different enemy types require different approaches to your tactics. The combination of reduced HP from the Warp Surge effect and the Plague status are starting to catch up with our Grey Knights. Our Interceptor is down. Grey Knights, though, are hardy warriors, so this is far from the end. It will leave this Grey Knight in a critically wounded state, but in a few turns he'll recover and be ready to continue fighting. If he's downed again, though, that's a different story. The only threat left on the battlefield right now is that Blight Hauler. So let's see what our Purgator can do about that. Nice, that threat of ranged attack is now gone. Still, the Warp Surge meter stands at 100%, meaning we've got another unpredictable event that's guaranteed to occur. Our Justicars just used Crushing Charge, another psychic ability that bypasses all enemy autofire. This is another great way of dealing with layers of enemy Overwatch without taking any damage. Blight Hauler is down, and we can now push towards the door. Note that when your Grey Knights move, you'll see a number indicating the action point cost for that move inside the cursor, helping you keep track of your remaining options during a turn. That new Warp Surge created an area on the map that stops our knights from using their ranged weapons, so we're going to want a waypoint around that. Let's get this last Plague Marine down, as Vakir works on removing the wards from the door. Our Purgator has an ability called Astral Aim, which allows him to access precision targeting from range. The principles of targeting different areas on the enemy remain the same, except you can select that target from a distance. This is an example of how upgrading your Grey Knight with specific abilities allows you to shape your approach to tactics on the battlefield. With the last Plague Marine down, our Interceptor is back on his feet, just as this part of the mission is coming to a close.
The way is open. Knights, with me. It is time to unearth the secrets of this plague.
With Vakir and your Grey Knights now able to access the heart of the Craftworld, and Nurgle kept at bay, we'll end this sequence with a quick tease of a key scene that sets up the rest of the game. And remember, this is only the first half of this mission. The game's first major boss waits for you inside the Aeldari Craftworld. Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Daemonhunters will be available on May 5th on PC via Steam and the Epic Games Store. Thanks for watching.